The Lost World Jurassic Park is the follow-up to the groundbreaking hit Jurassic Park, which was directed by Steven Spielberg. He of course returned to do this sequel. In fact, this was the first film that he directed after finishing Schindler's List, and brought his DP from that film, Janusz Kaminski, to shoot this sequel. If you're someone who knows Spielberg, then you know Kaminski has been with Spielberg pretty much since then. This film obviously had a lot resting on its shoulders, and quite unfairly so, this movie is looked down upon because it isn't the original Jurassic Park. In fact, this is very much the Temple of Doom of the Jurassic Park franchise that went in more of a horror direction. The actual Lost World book, written again by Michael Crichton, was under a lot of pressure to be published and live up to the original Jurassic Park novel. So not only did you have Crichton kind of rushing to put together a follow-up to his own work, but you had Spielberg and David Koepp brainstorming what a sequel might be. There wasn't anywhere near as much collaboration between Crichton and Spielberg on this film as there was on the first Jurassic Park movie, where Spielberg pretty much only kept the idea of Ian Malcolm traveling to Isla Sorna or Site B, in addition to the scene of the trailer hanging over the cliff, which admittedly is one of the better scenes in the movie. So essentially the movie and the book exist as two separate entities, which is disappointing when you consider how much collaboration there was on the first Jurassic Park movie. David Koepp in the end wrote 9 drafts of this film, as things were just constantly changing. The third act in San Diego, which I'll get to, wasn't in the film until 3 weeks before the film started shooting. I do enjoy this film quite a bit despite the issues it clearly has. There was a conscious effort made by Spielberg to make this film much darker than the original film, with more mature themes about animal poaching, more violence, and a tone closer to the original Jurassic Park novel. It's not the straightforward adventure film the first movie is. We had a small group of characters being thrown into this insane situation. Here the world had to be expanded with more dinosaurs and characters to be introduced, meaning some of the wonder that we got from the first movie with these characters that hadn't been to the park yet is lost here. Because we've seen the park now, we know what to expect on an island full of dinosaurs. So this movie offers up far more characters that can be eaten by dinosaurs. Because hey, we have to have a bit of cannon fodder, right? This of course means characters aren't as tightly written or developed as they were in the first movie, because you weren't trying to follow a band of mercenaries there. In this movie, we get a personal reason as to why Ian Malcolm would want to go back to the island. He needs to rescue his girlfriend Sarah Harding, played by the illustrious Julianne Moore. We understand that the world has turned on Ian Malcolm after InGen covered up the events of Jurassic Park. He tries to reveal the truth but is made a laughingstock. I have found it a bit of a stretch that Ian Malcolm's girlfriend would just run off to a dinosaur-infested island, after clearly being aware of what Malcolm would have experienced, but nonetheless we have a personal reason as to why Malcolm would go to the island. It's not a good idea at all, but hey, we had to get him there somehow. The Lost World has a bit too much going on for its own good. When you consider we have Ian get to the island with his crew, find Sarah, come across InGen and the poachers, discover the baby T-Rex and its parents, run from velociraptors who serve no purpose in the movie, get sent to San Diego along with a captured T-Rex parent and child for the new Jurassic Park site, and then get the T-Rexes back to Isla Sorna. It's all overly complicated when it doesn't really need to be, and could very easily be simplified. While yes, it's awesome watching a T-Rex rampage through San Diego, the entire sequence feels clearly tacked on, and just Spielberg wanting to do his own mini Godzilla movie. The velociraptors could be cut entirely from this film, as there really isn't any setup to them like in the first movie, and instead of again being the main antagonists of this film, the raptors exist more as a nuisance, as we only get them for admittedly one of the best moments in the movie, of the raptors hunting the men in the grass, while at the same time giving us one of the cheesiest moments of the franchise with Gymnastics Girl, because apart from the scenes that I've mentioned, the raptors have no impact on the story whatsoever. More just a case of Spielberg saying, hey, we need to get the raptors in this movie somehow. In terms of the cast, Jeff Goldblum is always great. I mean, he's Jeff Goldblum, and it's nice that we get to see him lead this entire film. You do get the feeling, however, as others have noted online, that Spielberg has really tried to replicate Ian Malcolm's catchphrases from the first film. Must go faster and life finds a way work in Jurassic Park as catchphrases, because they aren't deliberately set up to be so. They become catchphrases because of Jeff Goldblum's delivery and through the choice of the audience. Here, a lot of Ian Malcolm's dialogue feels more tailor-made for the trailers, as quick quips that you can use for TV spots, and the studio is just relying on Goldblum to sell them, and ultimately feels manufactured. Julianne Moore really has the most to work with out of the cast, as Sarah is often the voice of reason in the group and being completely capable with all the scientific dino and medical terms and work, making her easily the most interesting character in the film, as most times than not you'll probably learn something about dinosaurs from her. But mind you, she might just seem smart because all the characters around her aren't too bright. The supporting cast is very bizarre because there are famous faces here that go on to bigger things, despite not being particularly noteworthy in this film. The biggest being Vince Vaughn as Nick, this animal activist, who despite being used for comedic moments at times, is pretty serious and straight for most of the film. And you can really see those little nuggets of potential that Vince Vaughn has in the dramatic sense. Pete Postlethwaite puts in a wonderful performance as the big game hunter tracking the T-Rex, although his character motivations feel a little contrived unless you're paying close attention to his introduction. There were a number of deleted scenes that made it to the special features, one being some early exposition for InGen's plans, another being a proper introduction to the big game hunter and his partner RJ, that gives the characters a clear relationship and connection, something which is lacking in the final film, and so we have less of an impact when, spoiler alert, RJ is killed. John Hammond makes a brief appearance at the beginning and end of the film to show that maybe he'd learned his lesson about trying to coexist with dinosaurs. dinosaurs. Although I still feel like the events of this movie would have gone far smoother if he just let everyone know from the get-go that, hey, there's another InGen team trying to capture these dinosaurs for another park. Oh, and Tim and Lex make a pointless cameo at the beginning of the movie, which is purely just for a callback. Of course, the special and visual effects wizards from the original movie return to do the effects for Lost World, with the late Stan Winston returning to make 2 T-Rex animatronics this time. There are far more CG shots of dinosaurs in this film, with many big wide shots of many dinosaurs sprawled out like on a big canvas. And unlike the first movie, you get many more CG models during the daytime, which does make the VFX stand out and age more than the limited use of CG that we got in the first movie, which was concealed with a lot of nighttime settings. John Williams of course returns to do the score, using very little of the material from the first Jurassic Park, instead going for a lot of new, very different sounds that just make you feel like you're going on some big expedition. And sadly, we haven't really heard these themes pop up in future movies. Even though these themes aren't as memorable or magical as the first Jurassic Park theme, I still have a lot of appreciation for trying to create something different, and not having to rely so heavily on nostalgia from the first movie. The music still feels like the big adventure that we've come to expect from a Jurassic Park movie. Spielberg has become more and more disenchanted with The Lost World over the years, which as time has gone on I found myself disagreeing with, as I do enjoy the movie's environmental message about conservation and peace with animals, even if it isn't quite as gripping as the cautionary tale about man playing God. The Lost World feels like it has good intentions but stumbles in its execution. I definitely enjoy watching it for its darker, more horror-focused tone, even if there are some extensively excessive deaths, like the almost comical sequence with poor Eddie, which still feels like the most cruel death in the entire franchise to me. There are things to like in this movie, even if I am sounding more harsh on the movie than I intend to be. The issues that the movie has are still there, but doesn't get it completely in the way of making the film enjoyable. You're still getting a complete Steven Spielberg Jurassic Park film that really tried to give us something completely different from the first experience. For some people it failed and others it succeeded, and I think you'll start to see people appreciate the film more as time goes on, especially as we get more films in this franchise. The Lost World Jurassic Park gets a 6.5 out of 10 from me. Guys, I hope you like this review. With Fallen Kingdom in theaters in some parts of the world, we'll be checking out some of the Jurassic Park films leading up to its release in North America. So guys, if you want to see more reviews just like this one, stay right here for your Mono Fix. Bye guys.